Hey everyone, and welcome back to Future Ready Insights, show where we unpack the real world impact of artificial intelligence, from life-changing innovation to the weird, wild, and deeply ethical. I hope you've been enjoying the podcast so far. I think we're about 15, 16 episodes in now, and I've got a bit of a quick update for you. So the purpose of the show has always been to share the opportunities that AI and new technologies are bringing to the world, about how people and organizations are using it, benefits, and how it's shaping what's coming next. But it's not just about awareness, it's also about using AI in the right way. So I'm going to be evolving the format of the podcast just a little bit. So you're still going to get weekly content, but from now on, the podcast and AI news roundup, like today, will run every 2 weeks. And then on the other weeks, I'll be posting practical how-to videos on our YouTube channel, showing you how to use AI in your job, business, and everyday life. So if you haven't already, please sign up for the newsletter and subscribe to our YouTube channel. All the links are in the show notes, which you'll find below. And as always, if there's something you'd love to know more about, or if you'd like to join me as a guest on the show, or you'd like to see me do something in using AI, please just drop me an email at futurereadyinsights@dukadigital.com. So the link will be in the show notes below. So, all right, let's get into the stories and stay tuned to the end for a strong opinion from me on one of the stories this week. So first up, Meta has filed lawsuits against developers running so-called Nudify apps. And this is new to me. Probably is a good thing. I didn't know this kind of existed. So these are tools that use AI to generate fake, often explicit images of people based on their real photos. And this story comes from The Verge. And it's a really a good move here from Meta, because this isn't just about protecting their brand image. It really is a major step in setting boundaries for how generative AI is used. And in this case, it's not being used for good. So particularly in ways that violate privacy, consent, and dignity. So the legal action signals a broader trend. So platforms are starting now to police AI misuse, not just because they can, but because they must. I do think it also does protect them as platforms, because they do share some responsibility in this. But it does raise a whole critical question. So how do we ensure AI tools aren't being used to harm people, especially marginalized groups? It's a very difficult question to answer. And I say this is a good first step, apart from some of the rules that exist, and especially around pornography and some of the other rules using digital. I can kind of speak for here in the UK, but it's a big question, and it's difficult to understand how to move forward without sort of kind of still keeping people's rights in terms of freedoms and allowing people to do certain things. So I think we're always going to have this struggle. It's kind of no different. Like now, anybody could create something that's harmful about somebody else, using video and image editing software. Anybody could kind of do that right now. I'm not too sure we'll ever resolve that issue, but we definitely, society has to look at ways to continually protect people. So this is a good first step. In a much more uplifting story, a second one of the show, the United Kingdom's Technology Secretary has said that AI could be a game changer for children with dyslexia. So it was made the headlines in The Guardian this week. And I'll just include the story because it's just interesting to discuss how AI is being used for good this time. So this example is about using real-time reading assistants, voice-to-text tools, adaptive learning platforms, all of which are tailored to how each child learns best. So this is AI for inclusion, so where technology is removing barriers instead of raising them. But it means that education leaders, parents and schools need to make smart, ethical choices about which tool they adopt and how they protect student data and dignity in the process. And there's a big thing about using AI in education. There's a wider debate, which I've mentioned a few times now on the podcast. I think there was a story last week that was, I think, also in The Guardian, that was a number of students in university and colleges being sort of caught using AI quite significantly in their work. And personally, I think it is okay to use AI for research, but you still have to present things in your own words. It's no different really than using the internet. The difference is that AI can literally write everything from beginning to end. I think some of the interesting examples that I've seen is that apart from things like grammar, bullet points, and overuse of things like emojis and in summary, which are all quite clear indicators of somebody using I think that one of the interesting debates is that AI still gets things wrong. And so if you still don't really understand the concepts, then you don't really understand what you're copying. It's like copying somebody else's homework. if we don't really understand what they've written, they may have written it wrong or not quite grasped the right concepts. There is a debate about maybe some universities and colleges and schools maybe a little bit lazy to change. There are other ways we can kind of challenge students. And I do think AI is here, is not going away. So we should be really embracing, showing people how to use and work with the tools ethically. And then challenging students in a different way. It does take more time, is more resource, but if AI is being used or by sort of teachers now to mark, which was another story that came out last week by the UK government saying that teachers it is okay for them to use AI now to check as long as there is human oversight, then that time that's been saved then could be reinvested in supporting the learners in other ways. It's an interesting debate. It's not going to go away. That's just my own kind of like personal views. So it'd be interesting to hear from you what you think. Do you think it's okay to be using AI in education, AI in work? I think there's a lot of people that are, definitely using it and trying to show that they're not using it. And I think that may be part of the problem, where we just need to admit, actually, yes, we are using it, but we're still adjusting it and mending it in our own ways. And I think that's the key point. Don't hide it. Don't try to make it look like it's all your own work. That, make sure that, you're being transparent where you need to be. Next up, another story. So Meta again makes the headlines with a new internal model designed to help AI systems think before acting. This is mimicking a kind of pre-decision reasoning. So the goal is here to improve safety and reduce the likelihood of AI making harmful or premature decisions, especially in real-time systems like chatbots, simulations, or agent-based environments. So this is part of the growing trend towards agentic AI, where the system doesn't just generate outputs, but plans, reflects, and adjusts its actions. So think of it as moving from reaction to consideration. So this all sounds great, but it also demands a lot of robust testing. So after all, sort of thinking AI only acts based on the data and incentives we give it. Next story comes from US Science, and interestingly, is a thought-provoking piece. Helen Toner, who was a former OpenAI board member, and she warns that the US restrictions on science and international collaboration may actually be handing China a long-term advantage. We'll get into the story first, but I don't think this is just about China, actually. But she argues that by limiting research visas, international student access, and global partnerships, the US is risking what she calls a gradual disempowerment, while China continues to accelerate its AI ecosystem with strategic openness and state support. So, as I said, I don't think this is just a US issue. This is, this applies equally to the UK, EU, and other countries as well. There's an incredible amount of talent all over the world, but kind of we're talking about a lot of immigration and visa laws. It makes it almost nearly impossible now to move, share, or track that talent. Immigration seems to be all over the place at the moment in terms of like the news about where you can and what you can't do, how long you can stay, who can come, who can't come, people being excluded. I don't think it's ever been a worse time. So if I remember back sort of 15, 20 years ago, it was, we had freedom of movement when the UK was part of the EU, and there seemed to be less restrictions. But now it seems to be there's a lot of barriers, but equally countries are still trying to attract talent. But it's actually very, very difficult. I've even known of like celebrities falling foul of some of the laws, and it's just not possible for people to move countries like as easy as it used to be. And there is a kind of a political tone here about immigration, so it makes non-natives feel quite unwelcome from the start. This all then blurs into over tourism, which is really big, certainly in Spain. Have a look on the news if you want to read more about kind of over tourism in Spain. So this whole sort of feeling of these kind of policies about immigration, nothing seems to be quite working at the moment. So I don't think this is just about China, but this East versus West argument is always quite popular to get clicks from headlines. But, if you want to take that view, it's, China, if they want to take a more coordinated and nationally strategic approach to AI, they definitely are seizing the advantage. And, we've supported them on their way by doing that through globalization. It's a whole massive debate here, which we haven't got time to get into the podcast. I think this is one I'd love to get a couple of guests on to talk about. The biggest barrier I see at the moment is a people problem, and it's one that we're actually creating ourselves through policy. So am I wrong? Let me know your thoughts in the comments or by email, futurereadyinsights@ducodigital.com. That's our final story, and that's it for this week on Future Ready Insights. I'll be back with AI news in a couple of weeks on our YouTube channel. Next week, I'll be showing you how you can use AI more effectively, just some very kind of like short and quick tips. But please do subscribe to the YouTube channel to see those, or the newsletter. They're both free. And if you found this podcast useful, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone else curious about AI's real world impact. If you've got a story you'd like me to cover, or you'd like to be a guest, or you just generally have a question about AI in your world, drop me a line, futuredigital.com.